How's my audio and video?
Hello.
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 Coming up, folks. Coming up in just a few. Hello. Oh dear. Hey Craig. Hey Boosey.
Hello.
Hi there.
We're doing some streaming, but we are having slight. I'm trying to stream a bit of what's going on in Ottawa on the side. I hope you can hear this. Oh, no, can't hear anything at the moment. Audio renderer error. Oh, blimey. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Oh, dear. We are streaming, people. Coming up in just a few minutes' time. Yeah. Oh, dear. Oh, what's going on with that? It's got... Oh dear, shouldn't be doing that. There you go. That's better. That should be better. That should be better. Audio problems. Audio problems.
How are you guys? Excellent, excellent. Thank you, officers.
How appropriate.
Oh, okay. There's that one, the one good cop. Remember, Pan, the guy who did not tase me when he probably.
Oh yeah, your buddy.
My buddy. Yeah, yeah. He's a good dude, man. I'm just hoping that he covers my body, my little body, with his big body.
Oh yeah.
When the batons are coming down on me.
You want him to shield you from further abuse?
I just hope so.
I don't think you can count on him for that, Ro. You can only count on me, brother. I'm the angel on your shoulder.
Hail, brother. Hail, brother. We got John 15207. At some point, can you take me to see the purple truck and tell him or her it's my favorite color and to stay safe and hold the line? Wow, John. Okay. Let's see what I can do. Shmi sends $10. Hold the line. Hold the line.
Hold the line.
Lexington, Kentucky. Hail, Shmi. Hail, brother.
Purple is his favorite color. Well, he might be happy to know that we are, in fact, taking the rainbow back from the alphabet people. That's right. They took it many, many years ago from the world, and we're going to stand up and get that rainbow flag back so that the world can enjoy it once again, not just French groups.
I agree completely, brother. We got to take back the rainbow, and by that I mean we got to give it back to the leprechauns. Right there, they can't find their pot of gold. Okay.
And they haven't for some time now. So
well, that's it.
You know, we're going to do the world a favor. We're going to take back the rainbow.
For a while now, you're right, Pat. It's been quite a while. The leprechauns have not been able to find their pot of gold. So,
American bullshit. Love you. Love you.
oh, we have an agitator. Let me ask him. Hey, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, cuckold. Mr. Cuckold. Mr. Cuckold, sir.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Cockroach, sir, might we have a word?
How are you, sir? Beautiful, man. What are we cooking today, huh, boys? Wow, man. That pork went well, eh? The soup, they're making it. They're making it, man. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Come on,
sirs.
Revolution
Hello.
Radio.
That's a cuckold over there.
Would be a CBT cup?
Different cup.
It's expressed on this radio station. Its programs and its website by the hosts,
Like an
guests,
antique
call listeners, or
No,
chatters
no,
are solely
like,
the opinions of the original source who express
like a
them. They do
doo-doo.
not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution
Doo-doo,
Radio and
doo-doo.
freedomslips.com, its
Right.
staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Oh, blimey. Yeah. Hey, folks. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. Good people. And welcome to the Daily Chaos. The show ain't daily, but the chaos is. And today, Bond movie. Bond, yeah. Don't you feel like you're living in a Bond movie? The early 2020s, when fiction became reality. We're gonna try some gallows humor here. That was a bit of the live streaming from War Campaign over in Ottawa, in Canada. Gonna be keeping up on what's going on in Ottawa because I hear from Mr. J in Ottawa, stringer for Daily Chaos, that they're talking about clearing the protest today in Ottawa. That's the rumor. Gonna be looking at what's going on in New Zealand as well, and all over. We got Chris Boosey, Stateside, popped in to tell us about what's going on with the Freedom Convoy that starts in a few days' time. We got Craig Workman in Australia telling us the latest over there, comparing tyranny, man. Bill Etheridge in the UK, God bless you, Bill. And me in Spain. Yes, all of us comparing notes. Right, okay. Oh, hold on. No, stop that. Yeah, right, okay. Good. Bit of chaos. Welcome to Daily Chaos and a bit of a roll call. Hey, Craig, I can see you got a lovely shiny pate going on, sir.
I've got a what?
A lovely shiny head. Lovely.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Good on you. Good on you, mate. Good to see you. Boosey, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, we can hear you too. Fantastic. Let me just make sure everybody can hear us in the comments. Yeah, let us know in the comments, folks, if you can hear us. Yeah, hold on. I'll be able to... Like in New Zealand. Yeah, there you go. Brilliant. And we got Bill Etheridge in the UK. Hey, Bill.
With another owner of another shiny head.
With another shiny head. Yes, indeed. Aye. Bill, martial law in Canada. Is Trudeau going to get away with this?
I think it's the jury's out. I'm not sure. It all depends on the strength of conviction of the people who are opposing him, and it also depends on whether or not anyone in the international community looks around and says, "Oh, mate, you think you might be pushing it a bit far." As it stands, if I had to be a betting man, I'd say my money was on Trudeau getting away with it, which is unfortunate because I think he's a little more than a tyrant. and I'd love to see him overthrown and the whole apparatus of government, not just in Canada, but across the Western world, overthrown. However, I do fear that he will get away with it. I think that the opposition in Canada, political party-wise, is perhaps not strong enough to really put the pressure on, and it's looking a bit grim. But as this story's unfolded, you were much more optimistic than me at the start of it, and you've been proved right all along. So I hope that the doom-monger Etheridge is proved wrong once again, and the side of freedom wins.
Well, we see. The thing is, Trudeau, he's just a puppet now to the Great Reset, to the World Economic Forum. Is he in charge of Canada, or is Klaus Schwab?
No government or prime minister in our so-called democracies are in charge. They're all in hock to big business, whether it be the World Economic Forum or whomsoever. It's always a case of follow the money. So he's a puppet, but he's a puppet who's taking his role quite seriously, and who's really trying to win as many brownie points as he can by stamping down on those annoying people with different points of view.
It's incredible.
Yeah, Trudeau is just a really horrible example of what's symptomatic around the world.
We've got Chris Baxter popped in. Always entertaining on the tech when Chris Baxter pops in, so far as his audio is concerned. Before I bring these other folks into this, I just want to read something that I saw. I don't normally quote from Ben Fulford, because to be honest with you, I've got no idea the truth of what he writes. It's always very, very hopeful and doesn't seem to materialize in reality. But having said that, at the very least, Ben Fulford has got an incredible CV. He was bureau chief for Forbes or something like that in Japan, Tokyo, for years, and he's got a hell of a pedigree. He writes about the Khazarian mafia and all the rest of it, and all sorts of like triad gangs and stuff that are, having these shenanigans behind the scenes. And I've got no idea. But he does write something, at the very least, he's very entertaining. And he says something this week that so rings true, and I want to read this. He says, Ben Fulford says in this week's newsletter from him, "We were sent this quote about the situation regarding Trudeau by a Mossad source, and even though we do not know who said this, it is worth passing on." And I kind of agree. It is not Trudeau's choice to step down or to attempt to stay. It is the decision of the World Economic Forum, the WEF. This is a critical decision that will affect the entire world. This is not a battle for just Canada. It is a battle for the world. This is the first domino of corruption, and if it falls, the entire plan of the WEF fails, the Great Reset, because all of the corrupt dominoes will fall if they are forced out of power. Leaving them in power is simply a short respite for the people. Frankly, the WEF cannot afford for Trudeau to step down. If he falls, Biden falls, Australia falls, New Zealand falls, and all of Europe falls. This globalist faction that has us all in this scamdemic, then the rest of the world joins in. The sane world is crazy not to make Ottawa the hill they will die on and not give in. It is an opportunity unexpected, probably an opportunity that will not come again. The truckers are truly the people's army. Where else could you quickly assemble such a strong, younger army to possibly confront the globalist tyranny army? It is an army everyone can join and get behind, and people are around the world. Half the globalist tyranny army will desert them and join the truckers if they appear to succeed in Ottawa. Truckers can win this, but it will take support from everyone. There is a window of opportunity that will... My big interest here, my big concern, my hope is that the police in Ottawa are going to put down their helmets, put down their batons, and join the ranks of the truckers. Now that does sound, Bill, that does sound pretty far-fetched, but the top cop of Ottawa's police quit the day after the new emergency laws were brought in by Trudeau, this martial law, just in the last few days. The top cop. So there are a few white hats. The Ontario Premier, also Ford, Doug Ford. He came out and he said, you know what, we've had enough with all of this. We've had enough with the mask. We've had enough with the mandates. We've got to get back to normal. His daughter is there protesting. She is protesting against the mandates. And it sounds as though she's influencing Dad. And maybe the white hats are coming out, Bill.
I do think that is a crucial point. And the article that you just read from, I entirely concur with the sentiment, and I do think that if the truckers win, there will be repercussions, and how they win is if the police start to remember that their duty is to higher authority than to tyrants. And I think there is some chance of that. I do think there's some chance of that. And I saw the Mr. Ford that you referred to. I saw his video clip of him talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that this is at a tipping point where it could work. The only element of caution I'd put in is that the article that you read out, it fell down right at the start where it said a Mossad possibly source said that someone said that it might be. I mean, that did, everything else in it, I thought I feel that sentiment, but that part at the start, it's laughable, to be honest. That part, and you're right to precursor it by saying you don't always buy into it. But what he's saying about the potential...
That is classic Ben Fulford. Loves his sources.
If the dominoes do start falling, most of these people in positions of authority and power are pretty cowardly. They stay following the line if the line is winning. As soon as the line starts to falter and fall, suddenly they jump to the other side of the line. So, and the police are crucial. So, big shout out to the Canadian police. Come on, remember whose side you're supposed to be on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to keep tabs on Ottawa. I'm going to pull this up, this footage throughout the show from War Campaign and one or two other places to see what's going on there. As I say, Mr. J, our stringer in Ottawa, who comes on the show quite a lot, he's actually walking down there at the moment to see what's going on, to see how that's going to play out, and he might be giving us a live stream a bit later in the show as well. Let's go round and about and see what's going on. Comparing tyranny. Chris Boosey, Stateside. How are you, sir? It's been a long time. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, I'm now on the other side of the country. I've now moved to Virginia from California to go to school here.
Law school.
I'm going I'm at Liberty. So
you what?
I'm finishing my degree off at Liberty University.
Oh, good on you, man. That's fantastic. That's great. Struth, I just realized Revolution Radio, I do apologize. I had a problem getting into the studio today. It tends to be a Skype thing, and it didn't happen last week. It happens most weeks, though. And I forgot to unpress the mute button. I'm setting up to a bunch of different places. We're going out to wakeupuk.net. And we're going out to YouTube and Facebook and Rumble and DLive. I set up all these streams at the same time. And Revolution Radio, when I have these problems with the studio, sometimes I guess it throws me a bit. I do apologise for that dead air there. But we've got a full house here. We've got Bill Etheridge, as per normal, popped in to tell us what's going on UK-wise. We've got Craig Workman in Australia to give us a bit of a rundown there. We've got Chris Boosey here in the States, and we did have Chris Baxter, but he's copped off again. I don't know. He probably called in by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, Boosey, yes, please. What is the deal with this convoy in the States? As I understood it, initially they set a date to set off to DC from the other side of the country in March, which seemed like a bit late. I understand that they've subsequently brought that date forward to, I think, the 20-something of this month.
I think there may be a little bit element of let's confuse the authorities a little bit about what we're doing. One, if they don't sound as organised, then the authorities don't put as much force in their way to stop them, because they think it's just going to be a non-event. And also, if you're not uncertain about the dates publicly, then if the government is going to respond to the dates that they think it's going to happen, but they may not respond at the right time, have the resources in the right place. So an element of confusion can sometimes work in your favour. But my understanding is they're planning on blocking off DC. So that would be quite funny.
I did hear similar that it was.
DC is actually very easy to block off, because DC is not just the swamp metaphorically, but it's actually built on a swamp, and there's rivers roll around it, so it's all bridges. So you block those bridges, you can't get anything in or out of DC.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite fragile in that way, that if you can block off a few routes, you can really twist the knife there.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the latest in terms of government mandates now? Because as I understand it, Biden has been trying to get everybody inoculated. Didn't he go on telly the other day and say he wants everybody inoculated? And yet, on the other hand, there's all sorts of judges that are piping up saying, I'm sorry, mate, this isn't constitutional.
Yeah, this is the thing. Unfortunately, a few weeks back, the Supreme Court split the baby and said that they could mandate with the healthcare workers in like Medicare facilities, but they couldn't mandate through OSHA, because it was, and they actually used a tweet that a Democrat activist said about how it was a workaround to try and make it an unconstitutional act constitutional. So the intent of the law was, they made it clear that in the court that they knew what the Biden administration were trying to do, and they were just trying to do anything they could that would get through, but actually their intent was a wholly unconstitutional act. Judges are coming down on it. We've got things like the requirement for vaccine mandates to go into a restaurant, and masking mandates are dying even in places like New York. In my state of Virginia, there was a bit of an argument between the school boards and the governor. The school boards were trying to sue the governor because he removed the masking mandates, and because he removed the state of emergency first. So they said he didn't have the authority to do it. So he reinstituted an emergency relating to children's psychological health in order to remove them, to outlaw masking mandates in the schools. So he played a blinder there, and the school boards have all kind of given up on their legal action because they know they can't win.
Sorry, carry on, please.
We've had kids going in filing lawsuits against school boards, so the children themselves are
becoming having to become politicized. I mean,
yes, and the children are actually becoming freedom orientated, right of center orientated students in a backlash against the Marxist educators. So this is it's coming back to bite them, the authoritarianism. There are some glimmers of hope. I'm just back off. I had to quarantine last week because I got the Rona. But
you got something. I mean, who knows what it is?
Well, that's what. Yeah, that's what it said. They said it was. My wife got it, but I actually had something so mild. But I'd been up in my vitamin D, and taking melatonin at night and all of those kind of things. So I really didn't get affected. My wife was actually quite bad, so we managed to get her some ivermectin and doxycycline because she couldn't take hydroxychloroquine because of contraindication. But yeah, she's doing fine now. It was just basically a week where we had really mucousy coughs that we could not shift and felt like achy, but
yeah,
wasn't that
bad.
Mean, really.
This is the thing, isn't it? There is something going around for sure. We're not denying that on this show, that there's something going around, but we're not scientists either, or biologists, virologists, epidemiologists, or whatever. We don't have these ologists to know exactly what is the deal. But the experts are saying that the whole thing is hyperbolic, the reaction. Let's just have a quick look before I go over to old Craig in Australia to get his take on what's going on. Just down the road, yeah, it's a long way down the road from him, yeah. But this is what's going on in New Zealand. And just to give you a bit of an idea, this is outside their Parliament building. So these are Maoris, yeah, that are doing the haka. You normally see it on a rugger pitch. So basically, this freedom convoy is now beginning to move around the world. There's no question about it. We know there's stuff going on in the UK as well. So that's happening in New Zealand. I'm trying to get somebody on the show for next week, by the way, from New Zealand. And if you're watching this and you have contacts in New Zealand who are involved in there, or who think that those protesters should all be locked up, then we want to hear from you. Want to hear from all sides on this story. Craig, are we seeing anything like that in the likes of, for example, Melbourne?
Protests. There is still protests, but Canberra seems to have taken over.
Canberra, sorry, excuse me. Please carry on.
Canberra seems to be the focus now. There was a protest there at the weekend. Apparently, there was 500,000 people in attendance. There's going to be another one this weekend. But apparently the police are using sound weapons against the protesters.
Really?
I've sent you a couple of pictures on a Facebook Messenger of what appears to be a young lady who has been a victim of these sound weapons, where her face is just puffed up. It looks like really bad sunburn, but apparently these are sound weapons that the federal police are using against the protesters. They have admitted that they were using them, but they said that they weren't turned on.
Right. And what sort of coverage are the protests getting in the Australian press? Are we beginning to see a few more white hat journalists coming through at last, or not?
Well, a couple, but not many. They're still portrayed as kooky conspiracy theorists from the right wing.
What's your take on that, Bill, on that note? So far as the press is concerned, the mainstream media, are we seeing any movement at all?
I think we're starting to see some coverage of sort of a few things that, this time last year were not allowed to be spoken about. They're certainly starting to break into the MSM. Maybe not so much on the beloved BBC, but on other outlets. Certainly the internet pages of newspapers and so on. And there are a few journalists speaking out, but it's a tiny minority. We notice them because of the algorithms of social media, because we're plugged in to actually hearing from people that we tend to agree with. I think in the broader population, those voices are a tiny whisper in the background, and the broader population still is absolutely ill-informed of the whole situation of what's going on. So yeah, it's the beginnings of things, but we mustn't kid ourselves that we've got a tidal wave coming here. We've got the beginnings of a ripple, and we have to keep on pushing the work to actually get more people involved and more people pushing it out. But it's certainly going the right way.
Just having a look at this image that Craig sent me, Australian police authorities buying up sound weapons. So this is the sort of stuff that you say was being used, Craig, to the best of your knowledge, or rather that was being deployed but not actually used yet.
Yes, but there's evidence that they were being used, as with that young lady. But there's also people that have come forward with other injuries, like similar to the Havana syndrome phenomena that has been reported.
What's that? Firstly, tell me about that.
It's apparently this phenomenon where people, it was first observed in Havana, hence the name, where the victims report that they have headaches, they get confused, and they kind of become disorientated, and they have side effects into the future about where they experience this kind of disorientating headache and brain kind of difficulties, like just headaches and disorientation.
And you, what is the reason for that, in your opinion? Registered nurse, by the way, know. Craig Workman.
It seems to be some kind of weapon used against. I think it was first used against Americans, but I'm not sure what's going on. I don't claim to be.
So you're saying that possibly is a weapon that's being used as opposed to something. It's not. You're not talking about anything that's to do with a vaccine or to do with COVID.
Oh no, this is being used by the authorities. I also sent you two pictures of the actual supposed weapon. It's a kind of just a box kind of thing on a.
Yeah, I just showed that. I put that up. It's quite frightening. I mean, we really do seem to be on the cusp now. Chris Boosey, what's your take on this? I mean, I saw a great summation from Tucker Carlson the other day. He certainly is a white hat who says it the way it is, I think, in the mainstream media. And was basically saying, where's the press coverage here in the States about Trudeau having declared martial law in Canada? That what happens in Canada affects us in the United States. Indeed, it's going to affect the whole world, yeah. It's going to affect the whole world. Boosey, how are we going to see the kind of totalitarianism now that we're seeing in Canada? Are we going to see that ensue in the United States? Is that where this is going 3-4 weeks from now?
Well, they've already AT&T have already taken OAN off of their subscription. So now, if you have AT&T, you can't get OAN. So they've taken one of the truth-telling networks off for for vaccine misinformation, apparently. But the thing is, all the stuff that they were reporting is now starting to become accepted. So it's the problem is there's certain things that are now starting to come about. I think that the Ukraine stuff is more of that's being spoken about is a smokescreen, pretty much, because they're trying to distract from all the stuff that's coming out. For example, we've had Durham filing in court. And
John Durham. So basically, Clinton was spying on Trump. There was Russiagate. It was huge. And the mainstream media, again, is just covering it up.
Not just that.
Go on.
Once he was in the White House, what Durham has not included, but there's obviously the inference there, it means that the head of the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and the Secret Service are either grossly incompetent and that's why they did not know.
Yes.
Or they were complicit
in spying on the president of the United States.
Of sedition.
Sedition.
So we've got serious stuff coming out in court filings now, and they're also talking about the fact the person who is in charge of the Ukraine foreign policy was working on the Clinton for the Clinton campaign and was involved in the work with the Steele dossier. So we've actually got someone in the current administration who is likely to be brought into court. And this whole Ukraine stuff seems to be a bit of a, we're going to distract the people about the threat of war with Russia. And we're going to put something in, and we're going to push this narrative rather than allow any other the actual big stories, which are devastating to the current administration, to come through. But Biden is now sub 30 in approval rating. And
absolutely.
It's consistently going down. And he's not doing anything. He's not changing calls. He's not doing anything to improve his standing. So
let me just ask Bill's take on this, please. I completely agree. The narrative, the official narrative over the scamdemic or whatever, has failed. Is failing. Is crashing. We've got Biden's presidency is failing. Inflation there this week, I think, was reported now at being 7.9%. I know something that's very close to your heart, very concerned about, Bill. They're pushing for Hillary for to take over the presidency, and yet she's caught in the Russiagate thing as well, which they're just not reporting at the moment. Is Ukraine? Is it? I know it's impossible to say for sure, but what is your take on whether or not Ukraine could be a distraction? Smoke and mirrors.
Well, I know a little bit about this because I've been to the Crimea and I've witnessed dealings between the Russians, Ukrainians and other vested interests in the area, and also spent some time with the EU. And I can tell you something for a fact. There is absolutely no reason for Putin to invade the Ukraine, because you can buy Ukrainian leaders as easy as you could just pop down the supermarket. For a fact, there is absolutely no reason for Putin for him to wish to commit militarily when there are many soft power ways that he could just go and affect his will in that area. So I think that the whole thing has been blown up massively out of all proportion, very dangerously, may I add, because whilst I don't believe that Putin was particularly planning to invade, I do think if you cheese him off, you don't know what's going to happen next, because he's a dangerous lunatic, in my opinion. So, you've got to be, these people are playing high risks with hundreds of thousands of lives just to distract from what's going on. And the American inflation rate is catastrophic news for the whole world. It's far more important than these petty sort of squabbles over small pieces of land. That is an enormous thing that will affect millions of people's livelihoods, because when America sneezes, we all catch COVID, as to slightly deviate from the normal phrase. And of course, when you're in trouble as a government or as a state, what's the first thing you do? You create the threat of war, because most of the people who are actually rebelling at the moment against the state are very patriotic. So if you want to pull them back into line, what do? You create a bogeyman, and Putin lends himself to that. So there you go. Let's all unite behind our glorious leaders and forget about the fact they're oppressing us and lying to us.
Because he has been, he was pushing, what was it, the Sputnik vaccine, and he's been pushing for people to get vaccinated in Russia and what have you. And so it kind of makes you wonder, is he not basically just another member of the club, just playing us off one against another? And then Ukraine comes into the fore. What are your some people say, you know, Putin is bad, you know, and he's very dictatorial and what have you. He kind of twisted the rules to become president again after Medvedev or whatever his name was. What are your thoughts, Bill? Is he on the side of Putin, or the globalists, or the Russian people, or people generally, or what?
Well, he's a bad guy. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You know, he's not just fiddled himself to stay in power. He's also disappeared loads of people who oppose him, and dare I say, Olly, you know, were you in this remit in Russia, you probably wouldn't be here now. And thank God that you're not. I think we've got to bear in mind that we don't have to break things down into an old-fashioned goodies and baddies, black and white. In my view, the vast majority are what possibly would fall of leaders, world leaders, would fall into the category of bad guys. It's just a case of whether or not they're bad guys working in cahoots with each other, or, as I think perhaps in Putin's case, somewhat more rogue, but every bit as bad, if not worse, than the rest of them. So, you know, I think we've got to be careful about how we classify this. I don't think he's part of a global club, though. I think he's got his own designs, and one of the things that people don't realise is that when we have a falling out with some sort of third world country, some African tyrant, some Middle Eastern country, or we decide to bomb someone because, you know, we don't like their human rights record, the next thing that happens is Putin sends his diplomats out there with cases full of money to help with the reconstruction, and then they all sign up to the support of Mother Russia. And he has created a soft axis of powers in strategic points all around the world, and he's not in any way friendly towards the West or Western governments. He's doing his own thing, rebuilding a Russian empire, and doing it below the radar most of the time because people don't take much notice.
Yeah,
ever since the end of the Cold War, NATO's increased its presence around Russian borders. Like they were promised not to encroach into the former Eastern Europe, but ever since the end of the Cold War, they've gone back on everything they've said, the Western world, and they've surrounded Russia. I don't get why Russia is the enemy, because they were our great allies in the Second World War and the First World War. So I just don't get why suddenly Russia's the enemy after the World Wars.
I don't think
there's been a history that's gone on that nobody in the West knows, and we look like idiots.
I don't think they're our enemies. I think that they're just on a different course. They don't have to be our enemies. There's no reason why they should be. In fact, when it came to dealing with ISIS, they did a pretty good job of that. But, you know, when you talk about NATO expanding, you're right, but also the EU. I was sat there in the EU when we had a live link-up to the Ukrainian parliament about a further cooperation deal, bringing the Ukraine closer into the remit of the EU. And we were all supposed to vote on it. We had yes or abstain buttons. There was no buttons, strangely enough. And before we'd even had a chance to press our buttons, we saw on the video the Ukrainian parliament cheering, saying, "Hey, thank you, well done for ratifying the agreement." So the EU, in its own uniquely corrupt way, is expanding itself onto the Russian borders and poking the Russian bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're exactly right, Bill. This is what we saw. We saw NATO expansion. We saw the EU expansion. Ukraine was going down the accession process. They had a president, albeit corrupt, but let's be fair, he was a Ukrainian politician. Of course, he was corrupt. It kind of goes with the territory. So, but he said, actually, no, we're going to set back. We're not going to do the accession process anymore. We just like to be very good friends with the EU and the West, and very good friends with Russia, and kind of be an intermediary, because it works very well. And actually, they can make a lot of money, because when we put embargo on Russia sells its goods to Ukraine, and we haven't got an embargo with Ukraine, so we buy the Russian goods anyway through the Ukraine as intermediary, and Ukraine makes a lot of money. That is kind of how it works, and it would work very well for a lot of these former Eastern Bloc countries that are now no longer part of the USSR. That is kind of what was supposed to happen. NATO was not supposed to be taking them, and then the EU tries expanding out as well. And all that happened with this president, they have a coup in there, which strangely we don't hear a lot about the Western powers being involved there, but they were. Oh yeah, it was probably an EU supported coup, and then suddenly the new government's all for going down the accession route again. And that's why we had Russia go into Crimea, because the Ukraine were going to negate historical treaties they had with Russia, so they could have a warm water port in the Med. And when it looked like they were going to lose it, well, it's pretty easy for the Russians to go into Crimea, because Crimea is ethnically Russian, and most of the people there are second-class citizens, because they're not given Ukrainian passports because they're ethnic Russians. So as far as the people are concerned, they're going to welcome Russia in with open arms. There's not going to be any hostility. Russia can just walk into the places like the Crimea without even firing a shot. So that's what's happened. We've poked the bear, and that's why Crimea is now under Russian control. And really, we should just can we not keep to our agreements and just say, we agreed that these countries are going to be buffer zones, so let's just leave it like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to set up some pictures coming out of Ottawa, folks.
And just a quick thing on the
Boosey.
inflation. Fuel prices in Virginia. I'm not complaining too much, because they're a lot cheaper than California. But when I got here in the beginning of January, the price of gas, the cheapest gas I could get for my car, petrol, was $2.85 a gallon. $2.85 a gallon. It's now $3.25 a gallon at the cheapest pump.
Wow.
That is over 14% increase in 5 weeks, 5-6 weeks.
It's quite something. I don't know how people, are putting up with this as well as they are. What they're seeing.
Every pump is covered with the "I did that" stickers. Everywhere they've got people.
Why are people putting up with it?
They can't get rid of the stickers quick enough off the pumps from the companies, because they've all got these stickers set with Biden going, "I did that," for the fuel prices.
Absolutely unbelievable. Why are people not rising up? I mean, Biden's at 30%. There's rumors been circulating around his supposed presidency stroke coup since election night. I know the mainstream media has done a great job with their propaganda, but I mean, this guy is what actually is the percentage now? 38, something like that. Approval?
Lower. he's low 30s, late 20s, depending on which poll you're looking at. But
Unbelievable.
The problem is he has a DOJ and he has a corrupt Attorney General in place. That same Attorney General who actually went and tried to make parents complaining about Marxist indoctrination in schools into domestic terrorists.
When his approval is so low,
And
Chris.
it wasn't the school boards complaining. It came from the DOJ who told the school boards to write this and complain to them so they could do it, so the FBA can put parents on terror watch lists. That's the current administration. So there is a real problem. We know that the FBI has basically been the attack dogs of the Democrat Party since at least the Obama era. And people have got to be careful about rising up because they'll end up being locked up under the Patriot Act by this administration. That's how dangerous this administration is. It's not American in any way, shape or form. It is full-blown totalitarian. And we know that the elections are, at the moment, we are pretty much it's so bad, they can't rig. If they rig this election, it will be so obvious because the approval is so low. They were starting off saying that we were starting off saying we were going to get a few, we would take the House but not the Senate. Now they're talking about us actually going to take the Senate as well. I think the people are just waiting for these midterms, and they are really, like in Virginia, we have our Senate elections. People are already annoyed with the Virginia Senate, and the Democrats are going to lose the Virginia Senate in 23, which is just before the next elections for the midterm. So I can see it we're going to get to a point where people are just waiting for this next election, and if that election is rigged like the last one, I think that's going to be the blue touch. I think that's going to be the blue touch paper.
Are Scott Taylor and Dave Bratt still active in Republican politics in Virginia?
Sorry, Bill?
Are Scott Taylor and Dave Bratt still active in Republican politics in Virginia?
I haven't heard those names, but I know
they used to be in Congress for a couple of years ago. I think it's 6th district, I'm not quite sure, but they were really good freedom supporting patriots, and I know Scott lost his seat, unfortunately.
I think I don't know, because I'm in Central Virginia, so I'm only just starting to get to know. I've only been in the state since January, so I'm still trying to find my way around the names. But we are seeming to we're seeing a lot of support behind the Republicans. The Youngkin's administration has kind of been a bit. It's not. He's done some good things. He's done some things where he's not made as much of an impact as he could have. But I can see that we've had a few bills that have just been killed by the Senate, which people wanted. So I can see there is a tide coming, and it's so obvious that if the elections don't bear that out, it's going to cause a few problems. And I think there is growing understanding happening in the Republican Party that the Trump Republicans, even though the main people aren't necessarily on board, but among the grassroots, they're starting to understand that the Trump Republicans and evangelical Christians need to get on board with each other and kind of come into arrangements where maybe one's a senior position and then the vice is the other side, so that, because the biggest problem the Republicans are finding are the rhinos, which are siding with the Democrats all the time. So they're starting to realize that they need to get together, kick out the rhinos to make a strong party. because the Democrats, we need to be ready because the Democrats are imploding, and we need to be ready for that implosion to take full.
The thing is, though, Chris, I mean, the Republican Party is full of Republicans in name only, rhinos now.
Well, this is the thing. You've got three divisions, really. You've got the Trump Republicans, you've got the evangelical Christians, and then you've got the rhinos. Now part of the problem is everyone fights against all the different groups fight against each other. So there's no unified party structure. If you can get the evangelical Christians and the Trump Republicans to actually come together, because they are the Republicans and the rhinos are not. So if we can get them to come together, they can then cleanse the party of the rhinos, and then you've got a strong party, and a strong party with unity standing up against a party that is fragmenting in front of our faces, which is what the Democrats are doing. You're going to see it. You'll see them implode if you've got unity in the Republican Party, and that's what needs to happen. And there's a growing understanding that that's what needs to happen. And people who are trying to stand in the rhinos are not. You
would think, would you not, that what we're seeing, the taking away of people's liberties, values that are so cherished and enshrined in the Bill of Rights, for example, in the United States, that are coveted rights throughout the Western world, at least, you would think that you would be seeing, Bill, you would think that you would be seeing support from across the board, that this is not to do with party politics, this is to do with human conviction.
I think the evangelical right of the Republican Party are closer to an alliance with the Trump side than perhaps they were once. Having spoken to a few of them, I think a phrase that stuck with me was they said, he's not a godly man, but he's doing God's work. And I think that sort of made a little bit of sense to them, that I use the phrase, better the devil that you can work with. So I think there was quite some degree of potential collaboration between the two sides there. I think the main thing that is interesting to me is, from contacts I've got in the States, it would appear that the revolt, the real sort of Republican style uprising almost appears to be going along the lines of the Civil War. As the states, the southern states are absolutely up in any way possible for changing this and fighting this. But the further north you go, and of course Virginia is a key fault line in that. That's why it's a really interesting political area. And I think that if those southern states with Virginia start to grow the Republican power, and they have either Trump or somebody that they can unite behind, who's got 1 foot with the evangelicals, 1 foot with the more libertarians, and 1 foot with the old-fashioned conservatives as an alliance to change all this, they're going to sweep the board, because they know you won't be able to count a vote for the Democrats in the southern states. They just won't happen. You'll be weighing the votes in, and that just has to spread further north. Of course, places like New York and whatever, you can just write off their vote.
Well, this is the thing we're seeing Jersey and New York seats going red, which were unheard of. We had the head in Jersey. We had the head of the New Jersey Senate, the Speaker of the Senate, ousted by a trucker who spent $175. That a Trump trucker, and he got him out for spending $175. These strange things are happening, and I get your point, because a lot of what we're doing at the moment is we're kind of going, some of these things are really, really nice. We don't want to false hope, but there are some definite seeds, and we've even got people talking about returning to the original federalist model because as an easier way, because there's talk about the state mass secessions.
Wouldn't surprise me the least. Wouldn't surprise me the least.
They're talking about let's shrink the federal government.
Yeah.
And we've got Convention of States, which is pushing for an Article 5 convention to do just that. And they've now hit their 18th state. They have to get 33 states, but they've just hit their 18th state. They're close to getting 20 states.
And it's not surprising.
And they're just going to say, we'll shrink the federal government, and then the states will do their own things, and we'll just come together when it comes to internationally. But pretty much we will. If you live in Virginia, you will live a Virginian way of life, and you'll be a Virginian first and an American second, pretty much. And
having travelled from Tennessee by road through to Washington and New York, eventually, it was like being on two different planets. The difference between
Bill,
Tennessee and New York.
Hold that thought. We're coming back in just a few minutes, folks. Gonna take a quick break, get a cup of tea, what have you. You're watching Daily Chaos, and see you in a minute.
Just quickly, while we're in break, Bill, I actually drove from San Diego to Lynchburg. That was how we got across the country. So we drove. We drove in Arizona through all the states, and you can tell the difference. Hilariously, I was able to open carry the minute I left the California border. Well, I could conceal carry in California, but I could open carry the minute I left. And got into Arizona.
You can carry your gun
between those states is far greater than the difference between the UK and Germany, for example. It was totally, unbelievably different. I knew where I wanted to be. It was the southern states, by the way. It was far better.
And the southern state, being in the south now, because Virginia is the south, the people are so much nicer.
Oh, 100%.
Hey, listen, I just want to say, we are still streaming. We're just not streaming on Revolution Radio during the ad break. Just so that you know, before you say something deplorable, Boosey.
I wouldn't say something deplorable.
I've never not said something deplorable.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I can't help it.
But so I'm studying criminal justice and with a minor in pre-law at Liberty.
Oh, excellent.
Biggest Christian university in the country.
Fantastic.
Well, you are a vicar, aren't you?
I envy you being over there.
You are a vicar, though, Boosey, aren't you? You're a vicar that packs a gun.
Yeah, and I'm going to law school in the fall of 23.
Mate, awesome! My word, I tell you, your life is fast turning into a book. So you're enjoying Virginians more than you were Californians?
Yeah, the people are so much nicer.
What is that? What's that about? Why?
I don't know. They're less self-absorbed, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's got to be. When we're moving in, neighbours coming and helping us move into the flat never met us, but they're humping and dumping with us.
No.
And it's like, but wouldn't have expected that in California. And you, apart from Tucson, which pretty much is Tucson is its own kind of thing.
You mean Tucson, mate? Tucson.
But basically,
how long have you been there?
The people there are, but that was one of our stops. But apart from that, people that there, everyone, everywhere we stopped, everyone was so much nicer than they were in California.
Oh, that's nice, mate. Yeah.
Well, one of my best pals is a preacher in Tennessee, and he's a gun-toting preacher as well. And he's a fantastic chap. We've had some great times out there in his pickup truck, driving around, going up the Smoky Mountains. It's fabulous, and the people so friendly, especially if they hear an English accent. It's all, come on, try this, try that, be our guest. It's so welcoming, and everyone's so very polite. And there's not everyone's well off, but even the ones who are struggling would still have some respect and decency, would appear, because I suppose that the rules of law and faith and etc. are very strong there, that people are brought up to have respect.
It is. Because faith is so much more important to them, they will give, food off their table, and they will go hungry because that's what Scripture tells you to do. It is a completely different world. And some of this.
Hey, Boosey, hold that thought. We're coming back onto Revolution Radio in just a sec, folks. Just very, 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 very brief ad break myself. If you can help support Daily Chaos, please do. That money gets invested into, well, I don't know, whatever, really. Big cheers to Moira and Leah for sponsoring today's show. Thank you. Basically, it is time spent booking guests. And there you go. Oh, that's actually the Zoom link, isn't it? Yeah, that's the Zoom link. Well, oh, no, it isn't. No, I'm looking at the wrong screen. PayPal.me/Daily Chaos, if you can afford. Anyway, right. Well, we're going to get back with Revolution Radio now. We're back. Except, it's truth. I need to unmute. And where is it? It's there. Yeah, okay. We're back. Dead air again. I apologise, Revolution Radio. Oh, my goodness gracious. Yes, Daily Chaos indeed. With me, Olly Connelly, got here. Bill Etheridge in the UK. We got Chris Boosey stateside. And that's it. Because Craig Workman's probably gone to bed because it's goodness knows the middle of the night or whatever it is in Australia. Boosey was just saying he's more enjoying living in Virginia than in California. Go figure. The
weather's worse here, but the people are nicer.
Yeah.
And I'm literally stone's throw from Jefferson's old stomping grounds of Poplar Forest.
Right.
That's that's the next town along.
Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson's old stomping ground.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. Popular guy. Important bloke. Why are these good Virginians not rising up and saying, you know what, we just had enough of this, doing basically what the truckers have been doing?
They did in the election. They've taken the House. They've put the first Hispanic in as the Attorney General. They put the first black woman elected to high office as the Vice Governor, and you've got Glenn Youngkin in, and they've
so what are you saying?
Republican. They've got solid Republican leadership, and the Republicans are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, the Senate, we still have a Democrat majority because the Senate's elected at a different time, and they're kind of kiboshing a few bills. But to be honest, that looks like that's just going to help in the next election, because if they're kiboshing the bills that the people have asked for, then they're going to get voted out, and those bills will just go back forward with the new Senate.
Are people prepared still to wait upon the electoral process, which doesn't seem to work?
Well, in Virginia, it has been. That's the kind of...
Has it? The Virginia governor changed the Constitution, changed all the rules, didn't he, to help basically get Biden in there, and wasn't he just kicked out after some time after the election?
They managed to kick him out, and that's the thing. So we've managed to kick him out, and we're undoing all the stuff that he was doing. And the courts in Virginia are saying, no, Governor Northam did not have the power to do that. And basically, it's making the process of going back to doing things in a proper fashion easier, because
I'm not sold, but I would come back. We will definitely want to hear more from you, Boosey. Bill, I'm not sold. I don't think the politicians are sorting this out at all, whether it's in the UK, in the US, in Canada. If you look at video in the Parliament building, actually, I'll show you something. Let me just play something very, very quickly, and then we'll talk about the politics and question whether or not it is damned well working. Oh no, I can't show you that video because I got rid of it. I'll show it in a minute. In Canada, at least, on Parliament Hill there in Ottawa, the Conservative Party, the opposition, since they got rid of O'Toole, and they are now more vocal, increasingly vocal. You get somebody up there the other day, for example, calling out Trudeau, saying, how dare you align us with perpetrators of the Holocaust sort of thing, Nazi type mentality, holding swastikas and all the rest of it, when we're not. We're, if you like, honourable members of the House. That's what they said anyway. And you owe us all an apology, basically, for using this divide rule rhetoric. And people stand up and say stuff like that, and they get massive rounds of applause. In Canada, there is, but we're not seeing these politicians actually get outside that Parliament building in Ottawa and stand with the truckers. That's what they need to do, surely, to have, real, true credibility. Can we rely on the political process? Can we, for example, in the UK, wait till 2025 for the next election, and then what? What, we get Starmer, who bends the knee and who basically might as well be Boris Johnson's deputy prime minister, so far as the official COVID narrative is concerned, Bill?
Well, democratic politics, representative democratic politics, as we know it in the nations that you're talking about, is deeply flawed, and it is full of a lot of people who have no principles whatsoever, and the whole system is more or less broken. However, without democratic politics, without having some form of hope or faith in elections, you go down a very, very dark route. You go down a route that really is dangerous. And I mean that in the physical sense as well as every other sense.
Yeah.
We must, if possible, try to have someone that we can vote for and unite behind. And I know it's incredibly difficult, believe you me. I struggle to find people to vote for, and I know half the people who stand in the areas that I work in, and I don't really want to vote for them. But what's the alternative, Ollie? The alternative is that you get, okay, the truckers' protests, from what we've seen, been peaceful and well done, but you get other things, you get other forces rising, like in this country, the EDL, or the BNP as they were, and other forces rising, the National Front, etc., when there was no democratic representation for what people's views were. And you get fighting on the streets, you get people being beaten up, you get riot police coming out, and you get public opinion swaying behind the establishment, because Joe Public doesn't really want all that hassle going on all the time. So whilst I entirely concur with your frustration with democratic elected representative politics, if that goes, if we lose all faith in that, Ollie, then we're in a dark place where, nations fall, societies crumble, economies collapse. We've got to somehow try to restore that faith. And I'm glad what Chris has been saying, that in Virginia and in some of the states in America, the people's votes are counting to a degree, maybe not as much as we'd want, but they are counting, and it's making a difference. Because God help us, if we all lose faith in that, we're going down a route that's going to lead to disaster for all of us.
Well, I hear what you say, but I think we are...
In America, we are in a cold civil war at the moment. That's reality. We're in a cold civil war. And the going down the electoral route is we're having to trust in it at the moment and try and fix the problems with it, because we recognize where we are. We recognize it's a cold civil war, and if we don't try and fix those issues, that cold war becomes hot. And that's why that's why we're fighting these bills. The Voting Rights Act, which is basically Federalization of Elections and Electoral Fraud Act, is dying in the Senate. There's the Manchin and Sinema are holding firm that no, the states decide their elections. We're not federalizing this. We're not doing this. And it's a shame we're having to rely on Manchin and Sinema, but at the moment, those bills where they're trying to force COVID protocols for elections ad infinitum on a federal thing, and where the states will be sued and have to have pre-clearance if they want to make any changes to their electoral rules. Though those things are failing right now, and they're kicking off about it, but they're failing, and that's good that they're failing, because if the states can control it, yes, we've got crazy states like California that are going to do all the electoral fraud that they like, but the other states are not, and they're put. Georgia's got all these voter ID is coming in across the south of the country, and they're trying to say it's racist, but in actual fact, voter turnout for everyone is higher, and especially higher around in ethnic communities, because they know that the vote matters and the vote counts, because they know the vote is secured by voter ID. So they're more willing to vote because they know their vote counts. So we're seeing those measures. And yes, you're going to have those states that are not going to do the right thing, like California, like New York.
Let's have a quick look.
Eventually, there'll be a turn in those states amongst the people. Eventually it will happen, but it's okay. But the states that have to lead are the states that are doing it. Places like Florida. Florida was a basket case for electoral fraud. It was one of the worst states for electoral fraud, and it got itself fixed. After Bush v. Gore,
hold on.
Where Florida is fixed.
I just want to play this. This is just in. Trucker in Ottawa saying it's about to get ugly for Canada. Let's have a listen to see what he says, because I suspect that this plays into directly my argument here, which is that, you know what, the relying on the politics, I don't think we got time, frankly, but let's see what this guy says.
People think this is just about mandates and vaccines and
no, it's freedom. Total freedom.
This has gone way, way deeper than most can imagine.
Absolutely.
So, they'll wake up.
Absolutely. Did you get a early morning awakening this morning from anybody?
No, I just popped my eyes open at about 3 o'clock and started downing coffee like I usually do.
I had Pat King driving by, laying on his horn, telling everybody, get up, it's time to go. He was on live and he saw, I guess, all the cops. Did you see that live this morning?
Nah, I missed that one.
Pat King said this morning he was at a certain hotel and he saw dozens and dozens and dozens of officers, tactical trucks, tactical units, buses. He says today's the day. He was just down here in front of you here about an hour ago giving press conferences pretty much to a whole bunch of media saying that today's going to be the day.
Yeah, well, apparently everybody downtown here got emails and...
yeah, I got a letter. Oh, yes, saying don't come into work today. That's right.
Yep. So I guess they've dropped their cards on the table, and
now we see these fences being put up behind us. Only we can assume what that means, right?
Hold on. Did you hear that? I know the sound is awful because this guy presumably he's got his his motor running or whatever to try and stay warm. It's about hovering around 0 in Ottawa where these protesters are. It's worth noting that, because if you go out and you protest in those kind of temperatures, there must be something going on. They just said that all the office workers around that area have been sent emails telling them not to go into work today, because the insinuation being something's going to kick off. And the guy that's behind the camera here was saying to the trucker there that they've got their tactical vans and all the rest of it all queued up, ready to go. Anyway, let's hear the rest of this. Only a few more seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's no doubt it's going to go down.
Yeah.
And Canada is about to show its ugly face to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Canada is about to show its ugly effing face to the rest of the world. You know, I really, really don't see, Bill and Chris, I don't see how these politicians are of any use whatsoever unless they get out of that Parliament building in Ottawa and stand with the truckers, which surely would force the Liberal Party, the governing coalition. Trudeau got about less than a third of the vote. Yeah, he got less than a third of the vote. He doesn't have a proper majority mandate to be doing any of this stuff. And certainly the stats don't back up what he's doing. If those Conservatives, that so-called opposition, which are doing great stuff in the chamber, if they were to get outside there and stand with this guy with the red cap on and all the rest of them, those truckers out there on the Alberta builder or the bridge, I know they're not there now, whatever, but all these places, Trudeau's hand would be forced. He would have to then say, you know what, I've got a cave. Why aren't they doing it, Bill?
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I mean, I saw one of the most effective and powerful video clips from this whole episode yesterday, where the police were moving in towards some truckers in Canada, and a load of protesters lined up, linked their arms, and recited the Lord's Prayer, and refused to shift. Now, can you imagine the political ramifications if the truckers and their allies do something like that, perfectly peaceful, do something along those lines, maybe singing a hymn or a prayer or whatever, and then a politician comes out from that parliament and links arms with them? If Trudeau forced then the police to go in hard, he would be out of power tomorrow.
You'd think
tomorrow.
So.
This is the thing. It's all about how they react to it. If on the other hand, the truckers, and I can totally sympathise with this, come out of their cabs with baseball bats and start fighting back, which I would probably be tempted to do myself, I must say, they lose, because they will not only lose the battle, but they'll lose public opinion, because the TV cameras will focus on a couple of police who've been hurt rather than all the truckers who've been battered. But just imagine the power, Ollie, of people standing there, linked arms, prayers, saying, you know, I love you to people, with a politician in the middle of them being attacked by the police. That's how they win. Discipline. Keep their discipline at this moment, and Trudeau will have overplayed his hand and he'll be gone.
What is one of the most powerful videos we've all seen? Tiananmen Square.
Yeah. The guy with the shopping bag.
A single man standing in front of a tank.
With a shopping bag.
It's a powerful image. He was peaceful standing.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's like I was at the March for Life, got abuse. And the way we responded to the abuse and things being thrown at us, we'll pray for you. That was the response that we just took it and said, we'll pray for you. We'll pray for your souls. That was the response. Now, they couldn't use any footage. They wanted us to viral up and fight back. They weren't going to use that footage, because that footage would have been so damaging. It would have been damaging to the pro-abortion movement, because we are just saying we're taking it and saying we'll pray for you. It's a simple thing. Those kind of images, and this is what we've got to remember. they want us to get violent. They want us to stand up, because then they can deem us terrorists and crush us. If we keep peaceful, it damages them, and we need to work that goodwill. We need to come across as the oppressed. People like the underdog. We have to come across as the oppressed. We have to come across as the meek, and then we inherit the earth. Because when we've got the public support, and it does get to the point when violence happens, we already have the public on our side. And if we already have the public on our side, you then have the police and the military people start coming away, because they're not going to fight their families. So they start siding with us, and that's when they fall. We just have to take one on the chin at the moment. We just have to, as painful as it is, we just need to turn the other cheek, and then it makes us. It's the whole, to quote Star Wars, "Strike me down and I'll become more strong. I'll become stronger than you'll ever imagine." That's what we need to do. That's what the liberty movement needs to do. We need to accept that we're going to take it on the chin, and just accept it for now, because it's only going to make us stronger, and it's only going to get us more support.
I'm just showing a bit of live footage from War Campaign. Hey, War Campaign. I'm sorry I've clipped your logo there, but hold on. So they're playing the bagpipes at the moment in front of the I'm not sure what that's called, but that's a remembrance statue behind them there. Is it for the statue for the fallen soldier, something like that? Which Trudeau said there was, lots of anarchy surrounding and all the rest of it. Somebody put up the Confederate flag. I don't know what the Confederate flag's got to do with anything anyway. Much maligned flag. And then it turned out that there was one out of all of the thousands of protesters, or tens of thousands, hundreds. It's impossible to know. But apparently there was one flag that he disagreed with, and why he would disagree with that particular flag anyway. And apparently there was one swastika, and there was some guy that was dressed up as a Nazi, according to Mr. J in Ottawa, and that guy was chased off, was told to go away by the truckers there. But anyway, they're in Ottawa doing that.
Well, the Nazi will be on Trudeau's side.
Yeah, exactly. I did see, I did hear that the protest at, is it the Washington Bridge in Alberta that crosses over to the States? There, when the protesters left the bridge, because basically they were going to be arrested and they were law-abiding, rightly or wrongly, they were hugging the police. Apparently they were hugging the police,
and that's what's the kind of thing that's required, and it's really alien to my personality to speak this way, because I would find it immensely difficult. So I don't want to be anyone thinking I'm being hypocritical, because I know just how hard it would be in the face of provocation not to use violence and force, because that would be the first instinct for many of us. But if we're playing a political battle, which is what this is, and we're fighting not to win a pitched fight in the streets, because you can't win them. It won't make any difference. If you were to win that, the worst thing possible is, and we're fighting not to win a pitched fight in the streets, because you can hear myself coming back at me.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, but it's public opinion is what the fight is for, and the best way of doing that, you can go through Gandhi and all the other people who've done it, is non-aggressive, non-violent. Allow the police to be the ones who are perpetrating the violence, and you will soon find that the police themselves don't want to do it, as you said, not only because they're their families, but also because they're human beings with a conscience, and they are not stormtroopers. As much as Trudeau and co would like them to be, These are men who have consciences, and if you see a group of people peacefully standing in the way and they start having to be ordered to beat them, you'll see them defecting and not doing it. You'll see it happen. Not all of them. You'll see a significant number of totally confident of them.
Well, Bill, we saw it when campaigning with the groups like Hope Not Hate, that domestic terrorist organization. They would attack us when campaigning. And what do? We don't fight back. We leave. We just move on. We just don't get involved. Because then they are always the aggressor. It means any footage that is there is only ever going to be of them being the violent one. It's not going to be us being violent. It's going to be them being violent, and they can't use that against us. And people start to notice that they're the violent ones, and then you get, if you remember, when Nigel's family got attacked by a bunch of them in a restaurant when they're having a peaceful family meal.
Yeah.
What did that do in the opinion polls? It boosted UKIP's numbers at the time.
Yeah. Because
people saw it as, that's not on, that's wrong, you don't do that stuff. So it boosted in the polls. That is what, and a poll is public opinion. So, it's ingrained in us that you fight for the underdog.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to let ourselves be seen as the underdog. Even if we can win the fight, just take it on the chin and
absolutely.
And then it will hurt them more than it will hurt us.
Whenever confronted by Dope Not Soap, I used to walk into the middle of them, smiling and take the mickey, and hope that one of them would do something, because it would be me amongst a group of 100-odd people, and it would look really bad on them, and I was pretty confident they wouldn't be able to do too much harm to me. But the point was, you stand firm, you don't take an aggressive posture, you simply stand there and speak to them, and who looks the better. Chris is so right on this. We've got to use discipline and control in these battles. If you lose your control, you become just the same as the mob, just the same as the other side. And the public, it's all about public perception. That's the only thing that wins any political battle. And the public perception has to be that we're the good guys. Whether they agree with our arguments or not, in the way we conduct ourselves, we have to be seen to be the good guys, or we'll be portrayed as, all the things Trudeau and co try and make us out to be. So we must keep that discipline.
I got attacked when I attended a question time after it, because I was a UKIP supporter and attacked by a bunch of Labour supporters, Don't Not Soap lot, and they were chasing me. I ran because I was on my own. I was outnumbered. But
this is a telly show on BBC.
I ran to London Victoria Station, which was very close to where I was. Why? Because I knew that I could get myself, if I got myself in the station, I could position myself under CCTV. So if they did come after me, it would all be captured on camera. And it would be me seen to flee and all of them converging on me. Then the optics, I knew that was what we need. Me trying to defend myself when I'm outnumbered was not going to work. I was going to get a beating anyway, at least get it on camera.
There was one instance of an agent provocateur that I saw in Ottawa again. This guy who pretty much walked into a truck and then slipped over on the snow and tried to pretend that he was dead. And it was the worst ham acting you've seen. It was hilarious. actually. But generally speaking, we actually haven't seen much of that, have we? I mean, that is you would think, given what is at stake, that there might be some pretty nasty instances of shills getting involved in whatever demonstration and doing some God knows what horrid stuff, shooting cops or what have you. We haven't seen any of that really, have we? Hardly anything.
Well, the Nazi probably was one of them. Like in January 6th, when you had Ray Epps, and he was like, "We need to go in and we need to do this," and everyone started chanting at him, "Fed," because it was quite clear that he was there as an agent provocateur, trying to cause problems, trying to cause things, trying to cause a narrative, and working for elements of the state.
What was that? January 6th, that instance?
January 6th was Ray Epps, when he was basically telling people we need to take the capital, we need to go in, we need to force our way in, we need to do this, we need to get ourselves, and he was inciting, and it was so obvious what he was saying that everyone chanted "Fed" at him.
The thing is,
and they're refusing to answer who's Ray Epps. They're refusing to answer in the January 6th thing.
So, okay, but they have these tools. We know that this is a risk. We know that they're prepared to use these tools because they have done in the past. A lot of people think that Ukraine fell.
We just need to call. These people are becoming obvious, though. As we're starting to see that this stuff is being used, these people are becoming obvious. We need to do what they did on January 6th. We need to call them out and call them out for what they are. Say, you're a Fed. You're here to incite. You're here on behalf of the state. You're not one of us. Get away. We're not going to do what you say. We need to do that because everyone's a journalist now. Everyone's got a camera. So we need to do this. So it's filmed. It's like, what's this? In Wisconsin, it was citizen journalists that got Carl Rittenhouse off because they had the footage. It's not that the mainstream media didn't have the footage, they just were not releasing that footage. It was the citizen journalists who actually filmed and showed that he was the victim, that he was running, that he was trying everything he could do not to shoot and was only acting in self-defense, that got him off. The media had the same footage, the feds had the same footage, but they were still trying to prosecute him. And it's only, we need to rely on the citizen journalists to film us doing these things, because those are the videos that are going to go viral. The shaky footage from an iPhone showing where we're showing that we're calling out these people that are not part of the movement, that are clearly government agitators.
Yes. Bill, a question. The mainstream media still is not doing justice to these protests, and they're still using defamatory terms like anti-vaxxer and stuff like that, despite the fact we've got all the vaccines under the sun, apart from this one that is emergency use only. Is social media, on the other hand, are there more white hats involved in social media than we think? Yeah, they're banning accounts here and there and all the rest of it, but there is still quite a lot going on. We're seeing, for example, these pictures in Ottawa and what have you that are, I mean, there it is right there, live now. It's on YouTube. It's not being pulled. Is there some sort of hope that social media actually might save the day where the mainstream media, at least so far, is failing?
I've got a theory about this because I think social media is a route to find out the things that you need to know that wouldn't get covered by the mainstream, of course. But there is a very large constituent of people out there who will not believe it unless it's been on their television. And you can show them something on the internet or quote them and say, Oh, yeah, got that off the internet, did you? There's been a really good sort of dark propaganda campaign against anything from the internet. I could get an internet clip of the front page of the Telegraph and show it to someone on my phone, and they wouldn't believe it. But if I gave them the printed newspaper, they would. Now, that's completely balmy and doesn't make sense, but it's the way that the mind works, because they've been told, oh, there's loads of people making stuff up on social media and the internet. It's almost every speech, every justification for programs of education, for forcing people to do things, is all this terrible misinformation on the internet. And unfortunately, you know what, propaganda like that works. So yeah, the information will get through to people like us and anyone watching our output tonight. But the vast majority, I really believe, of Joe Public will think, well, it was on the internet, so it's not real. So that's why they're not so concerned about it. And that's why we've got to somehow, something major has got to crack the MSM. And that's what I said, go hark back to earlier, a Canadian politician being stood there peacefully during a baton charge by the police in front of those trucks would hit the mainstream media. That would matter. You and I and everyone else here, we don't really count to the mainstream media, but someone who's in a position of authority, an elected person, for example, that's what matters. And they're the ones who have the power, really, to make an impact. And I agree with your call to them to actually get off their backsides and go out there onto the front line and make a difference.
Boosey, so you were talking about the obfuscation from the Freedom Convoy in the States, so far as the dates are concerned, because maybe they want to try and not open themselves up as bait to the police, saying, look, this is when we're going to turn up. We'll see you there when you block our entry to DC. When is it kicking off? Any idea? Or is it completely under... Are they completely trying to play smoke and mirrors here?
I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors. If I were involved, there would be smoke and mirrors. I can tell you that right now, because, you know...
The thing is, on the one hand...
It makes sense to do smoke and mirrors, but... Yeah,
except that they also need to alert people, you know, when to, I don't know, put some petrol in the car, the truck, whatever.
Exactly, but the thing is, the truckers, they have their local CB radios. Most people won't monitor the CB radios. They've got the truck stops where they pull up and they talk to each other, you know, on their breaks. They don't need necessarily to arrange through like social media or anything like that. They need to just pass a message, and as the truckers are moving around the country doing their deliveries, they're meeting each other in the truck stops. The message gets passed around. It keeps the message more secure. Because it's person to person, it's based on the trust system, and that way, that's more likely to. It's more secure communications. If you're putting it all out on social media, the enemy has access.
Absolutely. Why? I don't understand why they didn't just kick straight off as soon as they saw that the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa got $10 million in donations on GoFundMe, and then of course that was frozen, and GoFundMe got all, you know, like Agent Kremlin over it or whatever, and so they raised another I don't know, 6 million or something within a week or so on, I can't remember the name of the other one, which is an alternative to GoFundMe. Incredible response. I don't understand why the truckers didn't go, you know what, we need to get hot off the heels of this and crack into it. You know, they were in France. I mean, the pictures coming out of France have been amazing. Incredible job. Fantastic. The protests going on there. They are in New Zealand. And there's a lot of stuff in the UK, but people are worried about getting arrested because of the new policing bill. That's actually a question for you in a sec, Bill. In the States, why, gentlemen, did they not pick up the mantle with this freedom convoy? There's a possibility.
I think it must be obfuscation and passing the messaging, because while it is a more secure form of messaging, it's a slower way of passing the message. But I think that's probably what they know, that they're going to crack down on it. And one of the main powers of the federal government is interstate commerce. So if the truckers are doing stuff where they're crossing state lines, it falls very much into the federal remit, and it means that it means that the full weight of the federal government is involved in this. So I would argue that because the size of the country, and to amass it and make it a big thing rather than a damp squid, it takes time to organise, if you're going to organise it in a safe and secure manner, that with the communications. Otherwise,
well, how long did they? I mean, they've had just as long in the States as they've had in Canada. In fact, they've had longer, haven't they? Because, or at least the whole point of the trucker demonstration in Canada came off the back of Trudeau's mandate that all truckers that crossed the border into the States and came back had to be vaccinated. Mandatory vaccination, which started at the beginning of January, the 15th of January, something like that. And then in the States, Biden introduced exactly the same. It's funny how they all sing from the same hymn sheet, isn't it? And he did exactly the same thing, except his mandate would come into force, I think it was about the 22nd of January or what have you. But it was announced at the same time. So the US truckers had just the same amount of time to get themselves.
I think it could just be geography, because what you've got to consider is, while Canada is a large expanse, it is still not as big as America, and it's a lot more sparse. Canada is a lot more sparsely populated, so there are set routes that people go, because they're the only passable routes, whereas there's a lot more the trucks going here, there and everywhere to actually organize something. The people are more spread out in America as the truckers than they are in Canada, because, put it bluntly, the weather situation in Canada right now, there are only certain routes that you can go. So they're going to be crossing paths a lot quicker. And, you didn't know how the Freedom Convoy is going to work. And actually, at the moment, a lot of what's been, there's a problem in the US, more than there is in Canada, of a supply chain crisis, because people are not able to get things anywhere. And a lot of that's actually been caused by California. So there's actually you've got a big, because stuff's not being shipped, it's causing a problem for them anyway. So there's effectively, they're not speeding to deliver things, which...
Are you seeing Craig in Australia has provided pictures which I put up on this?
It's really, we're seeing empty shelves in...
You are? Really? What sort of things are you seeing shortages of?
A lot of imported goods are just not getting there, because they've got to go through certain ports, and most of the ports, a lot of stuff comes from China and the Far East, and that generally will go into California, and they've got real restrictions on the trucks that are allowed to go into California now. So that's causing a supply chain crisis. You've got So much so that people are actually filling the tankers up and moving them through the Panama Canal and taking them to Florida, just because it's going to cost the company less in the long run than having the ship stuck out waiting for the trucks in California. We're seeing, not just are we seeing the issues with like staple, common things that you would import because it's cheaper to import not being on the shelves. You're seeing things costing a lot more because trying to get things anyway, you've got people to get them to the shelves. People are paying more money for expedited shipping just to try and get things there, and it's raising the prices. That's 7.9%. That's an average, but a lot of the things that are the inflation levels, we're talking, some products are like 25-30% inflation on things. We're not far from exceeding the inflation of the Carter era. Things are getting bad inflation wise, and we don't know how it's going to be fixed, because some of these bills that have locked us in for like 22 trillion on top of the 4 trillion budget, it's like, how are we going to clear that? And they want this inflation. They want the inflation, and there are people even in the Republican Party who want this inflation because they're looking at numbers of how much debt we have, and inflation helps them pay off the debt. Because if your money's worth less, your debt's worth less.
What are your thoughts on that, Bill? That's an interesting take.
Oh, it's right. It's one of the methods that governments look at for dealing with inflation is exactly rather dealing with debt is exactly this: that you inflate your way out of it. Obviously, it's very dangerous economically to do, and it's normally considered in a more controlled way than what we're seeing starting to spring up at the moment. But yeah, it's a textbook desperate measure to try and deal with overwhelming debt. Yeah, so and I think there's probably is some sort of Republican stroke conservative thought whereby people think, well, bit of inflation, not a bad thing under the circumstances, being that we've got more debt than the whole universe could ever pay back. Yeah, it's perfectly logical. It's just incredibly cruel to the people of those countries who are going to struggle to live. But if you look at coldly, it makes sense.
It is actually
inflation is the cruelest tax. Inflation is a tax.
Yeah, and actually, if it is promulgated by the state, it's theft.
Well, as Chris's sign shows behind him, taxation is theft anyway, and I totally agree with that. But this is just another element of theft. We've got to be absolutely clear, and I'm sure everyone is. Whatever moves now these states take on the economy, the last thing that isn't really even going to show on their list is what effect it has on the ordinary people. That is nowhere near their list of priorities. They've got to try and do something to make sure that those who have wealth and power have that wealth and power shored up, and that massive organizations and corporations survive whatever upheavals there are. That's what is important. And the very fact that we can sit here and have a sort of consensus that it's quite possible the state is looking at deliberately inflating. I mean, it just beggars belief at how inhuman these people can be, because they are going to absolutely punish and penalise the worst off in all of our societies, and they don't care.
This does fit in with what I believe is happening, which is that they are deliberately trying to implode the economy to roll out this global communism that they talk about, the Great Reset that they talk about, that is on record. And it seems to me, gents, that this inflation going through the roof and all the rest of the runaway inflation is all part and parcel with that. The breakdown, the deliberate, the sabotage of the food production chains. I don't see there's any other way of looking at it apart from sabotage from the likes of Trudeau and Biden. It's calculated to completely destroy the economy, people's lives, their businesses, and what have you. Is that not what we're seeing?
If you wanted to deliberately destroy the Western economies, this is how you do it. I'll give you this, Ollie, 100%, because the Great Reset idea has been developing with people talking about it and more talking about it. And what I will say is, if I were in the WEF and I wanted to create the circumstances for the Great Reset to be almost inevitable, I would have let public spending go out of control. I would have forced restrictions on the movement of goods and the logistical chain, the supply chains. I would have allowed inflation to spiral wildly, and I would have allowed large numbers of small to medium-sized businesses to hit the wall, and everyone be reliant on state handouts and larger corporations. That's exactly what I would have done, without, to the letter, to the line, were I to try and do that. So it does play into this argument that it's heading towards a Great Reset, because if it isn't that, then they're absolutely insane, because they are going to crash the Western world's economies in a catastrophic way. So there must be a plan, because, as I said to you before, I don't believe our leaders are stupid. Evil, possibly, but not stupid. So I think perhaps it is heading in that direction. I can't think of a single conventional monetary, economic, budgetary tactic that could happen now to stop the collapse. I can't think of it.
Blimey.
In one of my classes, we even covered the fact that it is paper money is constitutionally unlawful, because it explicitly states that it has to be coined, the currency, and therefore backed by a real substance, i.e. gold or silver. So the entire Fed's existence and the whole paper bills and all of that, the whole system that it put in was put in by the progressives, is wholly constitutionally unlawful. And the way that America fixes itself, the Constitution is the solution, because the Constitution would say, go back to gold and silver, have coin denomination, and back everything by actual tangible goods, not on and as such, those who are pushing for a digital dollar, if paper money is unconstitutional, then a digital dollar is wholly unconstitutional too.
Oh, blimey. It's truth. We've got just a few minutes left. I'll tell you what, let's just change tack just for, I don't know, maybe something a little bit more humorous or whatever. Bill, obviously Andrew he paid off Virginia Giuffre, was Virginia Roberts, what have you, and all that. A bit of a pickle over that as far as the royal family is concerned. Now it turns out that Charlie Boy's charity is involved in hijinks with, what is it, sort of cash for honours type thing. Give us a donation and we'll get you in the House of Lords. I guess it's inconceivable that Prince Charles is going to be dragged into that scandal any more than he was dragged into the fact that he was, so pally, if not best pally, with Jimmy Savile, huh? We're just going to be lumbered with this bloke, are we, as king?
The royal family have shown that they are exempt from the law. They can buy their way out of things. They can influence their way out of things. And, you know, I mean, the thing of the Prince Charles chatting and cash for honours, I mean, it really, if you open that sort of whole can of worms, how far are we going to go back? Lloyd George, you know, maybe even further than that. The point of it is, it's just symptomatic of massive corruption throughout the whole system, of which the royal family are at the head of that corrupt system. And as I've said to you before, frankly, when our current Queen goes, I want to be a Republican, and I want to see the end of constitutional monarchy, and I want to see an elected second chamber without all these cronies in it. And you know, some things are okay for a museum or for a history book, and that's what monarchy and the House of Lords is okay for. If we're a modern, educated society, then we have our representatives who we select, not just because they were born to some German family that got put on the throne as a matter of convenience. So no, absolutely, cut the whole thing out, get rid of the lot of them, and start again with true democracy.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? It just beggars belief.
Interesting thing, though, is do you know what one of the terms was for her actually accepting a payoff?
He is
prohibited by
You've got 10 seconds, Boosey. 10 seconds. Go on.
From denying that he raped her.
Right.
So he, by court order, so if he ever denies that he,
Boosey, we'll run out of time. I'm sorry.
He is actually in breach, in contempt of court.
Yeah, what a cock up. Anyway, right, that's it for Chaos this week. I'll see you next week. God bless you. This has been Daily Chaos. Ciao. Here's to us a bugger plutocracy. Go truckers.
Listening to Revolution Radio.